Good day everyone! Magandang buhay! For 8 years, PNU Visayas as the hub for environment and green technology education, the campus has initiated programs and projects that showcased its green color to its curriculum by integration, in research, by conducting environmental-related researches, and in community extension programs through coastal resource management, mangrove rehabilitation, and a community-based education for sustainable development. ESD, or the Education for Sustainable Development in the campus, is a whole-school approach. Thus, an establishment of an organic garden was conceptualized to make use of the idle spaces, transforming it into a productive area for our students to practice and get involved in the campus sustainability programs, and will take it by heart SDG number 2, or the Sustainable Development Goal number 2, the Zero Hunger, specifically in sustainable agriculture through this organic gardening, and connecting it to SDG number 4, which is quality education. Cadiz City is below sea level, basing on its geographical location in Negros Occidental. This is where PNU Visayas is. The campus itself is waterlogged, that we find it challenging to produce crops in the soil that has a high level of salinity, which makes it acidic and impossible for any vegetable to prosper, except kangkong in the area intended for organic garden. So from the result of our benchmarking tours and visits in the different organic gardens in Western Visayas, most of the owners shared and gave us the idea that the very secret of organic gardening to be successful, according to them, it's in the soil. Well, as an agriculturist per se, it's actually 101% correct, because it is the soil that supplies most of the elements needed by plants to grow. So, to address this challenge, we adopted a vermicomposting, which is a different composting from the usual method by using the available materials as substrate within the campus. It is our belief that it's only through vermicomposting that we can improve the soil in the intended garden site. What are the materials that we use in our vermicomposting? So the most important thing is the kind of worms. We use the African night crawlers. So in science it is called as Eudrilus eugene. Not all worms are created equal, so each species has its own gift as far as value for the garden soil. Some worms excel at composting, and some are made for earth moving only. So while all worms are sometimes referred to as earthworms, it's usually the night crawlers we're referring to as the true earthworm. They breed very fast and is capable of decomposing large quantities of organic materials into usable vermicompost. The next is the water lily, or this is scientifically known as Eichhornea crassipes. So this plant is considered as a water weed, with a fibrous feathery root system and a bulbous leaf stalk, giving the weed the ability to float over water, with which there is an abundant number of this plant and freely growing in the brackish water at the back of the campus. We make use of this as a substrate in our vermicomposting. Then we have the flatbed nursery for worms. We call it the wormery. You can use any kind of materials as wormery. You can also use the beans. It can be a round bean, or it can be a square bean. So it can be material made of wood, or not papers, but wood and cans, as long as the vermin will not escape from the bed. So in PNU Visayas, we have the cemented 3 flatbed wormery. So this is separated flatbeds where to lay the substrates and the worms for vermicomposting. We ensure that the beds have shade, so this will not be directly exposed to sunlight. So as much as possible, this will be placed in a cooler area free from dogs and chickens. So it is not placed here in the PowerPoint, But we also need to prepare the fine mesh screen for sheathing the harvested vermicastings, so free of worm eggs and adult worms. This will be used during the harvesting time. Our vermicomposting is of 3 stages. So these stages are the pre-vermicomposting stage, then the vermicomposting proper stage, and the post-vermicomposting stage. So if you're going to look at here, this is the pre-composting stage where we have on the screen the fresh substrates. These are not yet dried, so it is very succulent. So we have at the middle, we have the sun-dried substrates. Okay, so this is already dried. Then we have the adult and healthy worms. Why the adult? It's because they are already ready for reproduction and healthy, so that they can be able to survive, or we can be able to come up to the 100% survival of the worms. So these are the things that we're going to prepare prior to doing the first step of our vermicomposting. The next that we did is we gathered freshwater lily plants. As this will be used as substrate, then sun-dry for a week. Because the water lily is succulent, so it depends upon the weather condition. So 1 week is just a given time, but it is depending on the weather condition. If it is if the weather condition is hot, okay, so this will going to really dried up for a week. But if it is if the condition is cooler, so of course this will going to run up to 8 or more than, or 8 to 10 days, or more than. Sometimes it will run up to 14 days or 2 weeks. So the matured worms will be selected first, then placed in a box ready for the time that the substrate or the water lily will be sun-dried. This is now the vermicomposting proper. So neatly lay the sun-dried water lily in the flat beds and place the worms in the middle of the substrate and sprinkle the beds with water. So why in the middle of the substrates? We're going to place the worms. The worms need to acclimatize themselves in the new environment. So that's why we're going to place them first in the middle, in order that they will be the one to crawl at the different places, the different corners of the bed, and the water will going to reactivate themselves, because the worms love to stay in a damp and moist place. Daily watering of the beds using sprinklers and the weekly checking of the moisture content is very important to assure the survival of the worms. Ensuring the survival of the worms is a must, in order that there is a rapid processing of the substrates, transforming it into organic fertilizers in the form of castings. So this is the PNU Visayas wormery, the 3-bed wormery. So the first bed is filled with sun-dried water lilies. We need to neatly lay the water lilies, in order that this will not going to encourage predators to get the vermin in the bed. Then we have the second bed, which is composed, or that has the partially processed substrates, which is actually 15 days old. Okay, so this is still filled with worms. Then on the third bed is the 30 to 35 days fully processed castings ready for harvesting. We have the post-vermicomposting. This is now the 30 to 35 days old bed, wherein we're going to check a week before the vermicompost reaches its 30th day. We need to check the mixture if it's already ready for harvesting. So if it's ready, do not water the beds anymore. How do we know that it is ready? So we're going to get a lump of the mixture, then we're going to squeeze it. But if we can be able to squeeze it, then that's the time that it's already ready for harvesting. So we're going to prepare the 3/8 or the 9.51 millimeter mesh screen for sheathing of the final vermin product, separating the vermin eggs to be placed in the partially processed substrate for hatching. Continue sheathing the castings until all the mixture in the bed of the finished product has been fully emptied. Be sure that the casting is clean and moist before this will be placed in the plastic bags. Then put the clean vermicast in the prepared plastic bag, securely tied to maintain its moisture, and keep it in a cool place. At present, in this one bed, we were able to produce 500 kilos of vermicastings, and we are selling it for 100 pesos per kilo. These vermicastings are mixed in the soil and was used to fertilize the crops in the organic garden, with which we were able to produce these green leafy vegetables and these oversized fruit-bearing vegetables. In our herbal garden, we also use the vermicastings mixed in the soil and placed on the pots. If you will try to observe, our herbs are placed in the pots because they are of different species. So these are the soil we use are actually mixed with the vermicastings. Our garden products are sold outside the university gate. There are a lot of passers-by who came and buy these organic products because they are assured that these are actually produced from an organic garden. We sometimes invited them to visit the garden site in order that they can also see by themselves how we produce through organic gardening. Some of the garden products are also shared to the community. We are also sharing it to the Elementary School based feeding program in which the recipients are actually the eager readers of the Educación Buligtuon of PNU Visayas. This is actually the recipient of the enhancement reading program. And on the right side here, these are the recipient of the education, a community-based education for sustainable development in Puro Kakahuyan. They are the fisher folks who gave us the information about the organisms that are present in the mangrove and giving us indigenous knowledge on the conservation and protection of the mangroves and the coastal area. So all of these inputs they are giving us will be transformed into a booklet to be shared, a booklet or instructional materials in Hiligaynon, which will be used during the enhancement reading program in Daga Elementary School. It's not only the community that we share our garden products, but also the stakeholders and teachers. So teachers of PNU Visayas are also given their share, and stakeholders are also invited to see the organic garden practices that we have in the campus. Then they are also given their share of the product. So while we have all this bountiful harvest, the oversized fruit-bearing vegetables, and even the verdant and the very green pichay and other leafy vegetables, because of the vermicastings that we mix with the soil coming from the vermicompost that we are doing at PNU Visayas campus. For more inquiries, suggestions that you can or that you have, or added information, please contact me on the following. So this is my CP number. This is SMART 0929-333-9438, or in my email ad santillana.alg@pnu.edu.ph. Thank you.